Okay, I shot this video to show the proper way to repair a radial tire. This tire is off of my own truck. It only has about 9,000 miles on it, but the roofing nail that you saw at the beginning of the video is what I ran over that caused my tire to go start losing air. Now, at this point, what I'm doing is I've already dismounted the tire from the wheel, and I've got it set up so that I could get inside the tire, and I'm going through with a tire buffer, and I'm actually buffing the inside of the tire, which simply is removing enough of the rubber so that I get rid of all that texture that's on the inside of the tire, and I get rid of all the slick, glossy rubber, and I give the rubber, the repair, a good kind of roughed up area so that it can get a bite on the tire and actually stick and seal. Now the tire buffer I'm using is very similar to a die grinder, but it rotates at a much slower RPM, and the attachment in this case is a wire wheel. We also have a buffing cup that is basically just a metal cup with an abrasive attached to the outside of it. It is a lot more aggressive than the wire wheel, and I'm not using it because the rubber compound on the inside of this tire is actually fairly soft, and the wire wheel is a lot less aggressive. It doesn't quite bite as hard and pitch the buffer around as much or dig in as deep, and I don't have a real thick layer of rubber on the inside of this tire to buff into, so I don't want to cut in too fast. That's also why I'm moving it around so quickly, because if I sit in one spot too long, it will dig in very quickly and I can get into the inner core of the tire, which I don't want to do. Now at this point, I've gotten the area around my repair buffed well enough that I can get the repair to stick, and I'll have an area just slightly larger. And I'm going to come back in with the air hose and blow all of the rubber chunks or the little rubber pieces from buffing the tire that I can get out of the tire. That way none of them end up underneath of my patch where they could potentially cause a leak in the future. And that's the vulcanizing cement. And basically that's just a rubber cement. And I go through and I'll apply a couple different real light coats just to make sure I get it all worked down into the surface that I've buffed. And it just makes the inside, that buffed area, tacky so that the combination repair, the patch plug that I'm going to use, has something to stick to. And once I get done coating the inside of the tire with the rubber cement, I'll give it a little bit of time to dry as I get the repair ready. That way it is tacky, it's not still real wet. Otherwise the repair won't stick to the cement. The cement will be too wet and it won't stick and it won't seal properly. Now there you can see the repair area. Once I've got it buffed, I've got the cement on, and it's drying as I'm getting the repair ready to put into the tire. Now the repair, the plug portion has a metal tip over top of it so that you can work it through the hole, and it seals the hole from the outside so that you don't get any contamination working its way in where it could possibly get into the steel belts or anything else. And then you have a patch that goes on the inside to prevent any air from being able to get into the hole and possibly work its way in between the rubber plies and the steel cord and cause the tire to fail. And what I've done is, you'll see when I go to put it in here, I've taken the paper backing off the patch and I've turned it 90 degrees and stuck it back on so that I have some place that I can put my fingers while I'm working the patch or the plug through the tire. This way I don't get any fingerprints or contamination on the surface of the patch that's going to come in contact with the tire. Unfortunately on this one, I actually did touch the inside of the patch, and you'll see that in just a second when I go to peel the paper off of it. I see my fingerprint and I actually pull the patch out and throw it in the trash can and grab a new one and start over, because I can't, once you get the contamination on it, you can't clean it off. Okay, now here is the second one, and this one I didn't have any trouble with. I got it worked through the hole just fine. And once I get it started in the hole where the metal tip is protruding through the outside of the tire, I'll peel the backing off like I'm doing right now, and then I'll take the pair of pliers and I'll go to the outside of the tire, grab the metal tip, and actually pull the repair the rest of the way in. That way it centers the repair perfectly over the hole on its own, and I'm not trying to push it all the way in and possibly end up with a wrinkle in it. As you'll see here, I'm actually pulling it the rest of the way through and pulling it down flat against the inside of the tire. Now I will have to go back in a second and pull it the rest of the way because it didn't quite seat down the way I wanted it to. And then I'm going to come in, once I get the camera set back where it needs to be, with a stitcher, which is basically a small metal wheel, and I will start at the center of the patch and I will run that back and forth across the patch and work my way from the center out to one side, back across to the other, and then I will turn at a 45-degree angle, do the same thing, and once I've done that, I will turn at another 45-degree angle or 90 degrees to my first set of stitching and do it again. That way I'm making sure that as much of the patch as possible is coming in good contact with the rubber cement and is stuck down. And I'm also forcing all of the air out from underneath the patch as I work my way across. This way I get a good seal on the inside of the tire and I don't end up with a leak in the future. Any air you trap in there as the tire heats up, that air is going to expand and contract. And as it expands, it will actually push the patch away from the inside of the tire. So you really have to make sure that you get as much air out as possible. Now, since I shot this video, I've driven almost 5,000 miles on this tire, and I have not had any leaks. I've installed several hundred, if not 1,000 or more of these plugs in my career, and I have never had one of these tires come back leaking from a plug that I put in, and I've never had any of them fail. So this is a much better way of repairing it than pushing one of the rope plugs through there. So if you like the video, guys, please comment, rate, subscribe. I'd love to hear what you think. And here is the little rubber plug from the outside of the tire. Thank you for watching.